December 11th. Pray with me. Gracious Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the sunshine, all the many blessings you've given Columbia County. I pray that you'd be with us through this meeting. Help us to make honor you, Columbia County. I ask this in Christ's name. Amen. Please stand for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a full quorum. Gentlemen, you got the minutes from the September 11th meeting in your binder. For your approval, I'll accept the motion to do so.
So move.
Second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Scott, the agenda set?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I believe we're good to go for the audit agenda.
Okay, very good. New business? Who's going to speak for? Rick? Hey.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So we have four reports to present to you this morning. And if you don't mind, I'll just jump right into it. We will start with the Clerk of Court Internal Audit Report. We performed our routine procedures as well as several specific to the Clerk of Court's office. And you can find on page 3 of that report a summary of our results. We did observe cash counts and verify the accuracy of them with no exceptions noticed. We also tested 10 deposits over 2 months and noted no exceptions there. And also tested the remittance of funds from the Clerk of Court's office, noting no issues there. We did notice what we refer to as excess cash. And if I can define that just generally speaking.
Got our attention.
Because the Clerk of Court's office operates as a fiduciary fund, none of the cash they have on hand is their own, but all to be remitted to other entities. So any funds that cannot be specifically identified as owed to a specific entity, we generally refer to as excess funds. So in total, the Clerk of Court's office had $2,590,944 on hand at January 31, 2018, the date we chose to look at these matters. In the South State Bank, we noticed what we refer to as excess cash in the total of $774,645, which you can see broken out on page 3 here in terms of the general account, the criminal account, the juvenile account. Now, there's a little more detail deeper in the report. If you look at page 10 of the report, you'll see that same table and you see our recommendation. Our recommendation is simply that an investigation be done within the ICON case management accounting program and other county records to determine to whom these amounts are owed so that they can either be paid to those entities, held to be paid to those entities when due, or ultimately remitted to the county. You also see the management's response here. They describe the ongoing process to research these accounts, and they're also doing a conversion from the old QuickBooks system. So that was our primary finding and recommendation in regards to that. Ultimately, the Clerk of Court was simply not able to give us a detailed record of to whom exactly each of those dollars was owed. Do we have any questions on that before I move on?
Shouldn't that be laid out? I mean, $700,000?
Yes. There are several different ways, of course, that the money gets into the account, and it accumulates over time. I'm not suggesting that any of that money got in there in an inappropriate manner. It's all owed to someone. It's really a reporting question. At this point in time, the clerk of court's office is simply not able to provide a detailed report that shows how many dollars are owed to each individual that sums to the total that is in the bank accounts. So that's the best way I would describe that matter.
Do we have any idea how much time this is accumulated in this manner?
Actually, to answer that question, I believe I would be able to say that all of this would be during Cindy Mason's term because she opened new accounts when she became the clerk of court. But I could be wrong about that, though, so I don't want to take that to the bank, so to speak. I do know that she opened some new accounts. There were some older accounts at one point in time. But certainly it's been building over a number of years. And it's possible that it could be figured out. It'd be a matter of going through court records, looking back over deposits over several years to determine exactly to whom all of those dollars were owed.
Well, if I was owed a bunch of restitution money, I'd like to know that it was coming in some day and that it was on some docket that
Yes.
was owed to me.
Yes, there are several. As you read the report.
Hold on a second. Chris?
Mhm. Mhm. Yes, yes. What I was going to mention is that we discussed some of these types of matters. There are multiple accounts. For instance, there's the garnishment account, and when it's the responsibility of the person, the attorney that's representing the person paying in the garnishment, to stop the garnishment when the garnishment's no longer due. But if the recipient of the garnishment is no longer supposed to receive it, then they won't receive it any longer. So you can see money could accumulate that way. There are many, many different ways that money can accumulate in these accounts. And in many of these accounts, we can identify exactly why. There's a good discussion of this, I would say, between pages 9, 10, 9 and 10. And there's also the management response. Our only recommendation is that efforts be made to develop a sufficient detailed listing of exactly to whom all of these things are owed.
When you say revisit, can we accelerate their turn on the cycle then? Is that what would that be a good recommendation, I think?
That's true. We could, if we did revisit to make it, we could focus on just this one matter. May not need to look at their purchase requisitions again so quickly after the last time we did, but we'll let y'all let us know what you want us to do there, and we'll do it.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, members of the committee, this has been an ongoing issue. It's been going on my entire time here. It's not unique to Columbia County. It happens in a lot of counties with the constitutional officers that have their own accounts and how the money's remitted. We're certainly not saying that Ms. Mason's done anything wrong here, or that this money is being misappropriated in any way. But I think it's your responsibility to see to it that the money is accounted for. That being said, it would be our recommendation that we go back with another internal audit on just this matter to try to get the answers for the committee, so you'll have a little better feeling of what's supposed to happen. And then if there are issues of money that needs to be remitted somewhere, we need to make sure that we have good documentation as our attempt to remit that money, and then figure out what our legal opportunities are beyond that. If the state won't take it and it's theirs, I don't think letting it sit in an account forever and ever is the right idea. Maybe some court order or something we can do to have the money redispersed. We'll figure something out, but I do think it's incumbent upon us to go back and ask for an internal audit on this matter as a result of these findings.
Gentlemen?
I would like to make a recommendation or a motion, I guess a recommendation, that we ask staff to follow up with this with a revisit to this department.
Certainly.
At the auditor and the staff's discretion of how much time would be necessary for them to incorporate their new system, focus on this particular issue.
Certainly.
That's a motion, I'll second that.
We don't, you can certainly make a motion for that, but you could direct staff to do that, and we understand that, and we'll follow up on it. We typically do the scheduling for that anyway. So hearing what the committee says, we'll follow up on that.
We'll get it on the schedule. There was one other finding at the clerk of court, which I'll quickly explain, and that was when testing bank reconciliations, we noted some outstanding checks over 5 years old, which is what we refer to as unclaimed property, and we recommend that those be either paid to the correct payee or remitted to the state as unclaimed property. And there's a management response on that as well. I believe they are working on it. So that.
Can I ask a question? Do we have somebody that does the munis training? Because it says that county clerk voiced a desire for some training on that. So where does that come from, and can we see that happens?
We do. We offer it on a pretty regular basis. So we can set up customized training, or we have training on a monthly basis people just sign up for. So okay. I'm not sure where the disconnect is between us providing it and them getting it is, but we'll work on that.
Thank you.
Yes, they did. Also mentioned a lack of office space.
Working on that as well.
Our next department is the alcohol and business license, or occupational tax department. We took a look at the change fund and noted no exceptions. We also tested several deposits without any issues at all. When looking at the occupational tax application and annual renewal process, we noted one new application that was missing the employer, or the employer affidavit was not signed by the applicant or notarized. One application. We also noted 4 applications that were missing the second page. Upon inquiry, we discovered that apparently there was a scanning matter. They didn't scan both sides of the application. So that transpired. There are management, our recommendation was that a review of those applications be done at a management level, and the management response, I believe, was in agreement to that. You'll see page 6 is where the management response is to our recommendation for a review. And also management said that they would hold on to the physical paperwork until they're certain it's all been scanned. So that would be a good practice. We also looked at the alcohol license application and annual renewal process without finding any exceptions. We looked into their purchase requisition process, no exceptions noted there, or with purchase card transactions, and timesheets were also without exceptions. During our general inquiries and observations there, you'll see on page 9, there was a discussion of how certain components of occupational tax licenses have to go through other departments. And the management was discussing adjustments to software to generate reports so they could see which other departments have and have not approved their efficiency ideas that they had. We passed that information along to you in these paragraphs on page 9, and then offered management the opportunity to put in a few, 2 paragraphs there as well to discuss those matters. They also would like to be able to approve their cash collections electronically within Munis. I'm not certain why that's not possible. So that is alcohol and business license. Are there any questions on that one?
I'll just ask, once again, they mentioned Munis training.
Not always Munis training, it's Munis
Implementation?
There you go, implementation.
Okay.
But getting them to turn certain features on. We've met with IT. We actually had a meeting last week about some of these approval processes. Renewals, 161 per day is what we have to average to get all these taxes approved. Putting that into Munis and then having another department approve it, it's just working those kinks out.
Do we have a strategy to try to paper?
We do. It's probably we're going to work on it. I think in February we decided we were going to start working on it, get through this renewal season. We don't want to start in the middle of renewal season. Get through this one, then work on it and have something in place for next renewal season.
Yeah, I think the management has some good ideas to streamline that process, figuring out what Munis offers as far as this cash deposit approval process. They have some good ideas there, so we wanted to make sure that that was included in the report so that you could see that. The next 2 reports are really in one department. It's a little bit of a difficult department to explain at first. It's facilities and construction maintenance department. So we divided it up into 2 reports so we could sort of make it more bite-sized. And the first thing we looked at was facilities management. So in looking at facilities management, we looked at the purchase requisitions. As everyone knows, purchase requisitions above $2,000 require 3 to 5 quotes before making those purchases. And what we observed in looking through these purchase requisitions is that replacing light bulbs at, I believe it was Patriots Park, each individual invoice was less than $2,000, but within a few days, $7,000 had been spent. Now that's on page 4 of this report. We describe our process and what we noticed. And so our recommendation would be that in a circumstance like this, and I believe we've made similar recommendations to this in the past in other departments, when you know you're going to be buying more than $2,000 worth of light bulbs, even if each individual invoice is considerably less than $2,000, it would be worthwhile to determine maybe a certain vendor, get some quotes from various vendors on what these light bulbs cost. So that was our recommendation. Management did respond here on page 4, and they discussed some of the difficulties in predicting those expenses, which I fully understand. They're saying it could be the ballast, it could be the bulb. They don't know until they get into it, which I also understand that side of it. I just wanted for everyone to be aware that sometimes individual invoices may go below that $2,000 threshold, therefore not triggering the need for multiple quotes. But again, within a few days, $7,000 had been spent on bulbs.
Accounting perspective, track each field? Do we code it to that field?
Not from an accounting standpoint. Not from an accounting standpoint. From a maintenance standpoint, we track each field as a separate entity, so we know what we're doing per field. So if we notice that this field is always having bulbs replaced, we know there's something else going on at that field. Power issue. We're getting power surges. We're busting bulbs. So we track each field separately.
And that was one of the things in management's response, the discussion of that.
Questions?
We also looked at purchase cards without noting any kind of exceptions at all there. We didn't see anything similar to that issue we described previously. And looking at work orders, we had a small recommendation here on page 6. You notice that there was no internal policy concerning the time frame which work orders should be completed. There are routine reviews of work orders. We're not saying that they're not reviewed. Our recommendation was looking at the status of outstanding work orders to ensure timely completion, and perhaps tracking labor hours and material use per employee. And management's response to that recommendation was that they would look at an internal policy concerning review of work orders.
So what you're saying here is when we have an internal project, we're not tracking the labor and the money we spend on that?
Well,
Say more of the time.
more the time.
More of the time it takes to get these projects done. And one thing that you'll need to consider is that we went almost a year without a manager in that role. We've got a manager there now who is very attuned to this process, is working through these work orders now, and really in his first probably 30 days on the job has already set up processes to get these work orders done in a timely manner and have a better reporting of that.
The changes in that department was the reason why it took us a little while to kind of get our footing there. And management was very receptive to us when we were there and very easy to work with. And I did, in the report, we specifically say that they are reviewing, they have review processes. We just thought maybe they should look at the time frame, kind of organize the work orders in that manner, something to consider, and I believe they were receptive to that. We also looked at their timesheets and inventory procedures and did not notice any issues there. Any questions about facilities management? So as we move on to the special projects function, it's a separate report. We're working with the same basic people. We looked at their purchase requisitions, their purchase cards, had no issues there. We also looked at their timesheets without any issues. When we were looking at how they do project management, if you look at page 6, again, they're maintaining a project tracking spreadsheet. In this case, and this is special projects, this is, I suppose just what it sounds like. This would not be routine maintenance, but a special project that's been requested by a certain department. So they do maintain a spreadsheet, but we didn't notice that there was any cost estimates being provided. So our recommendation was that a special project above a certain threshold, maybe not the smallest of special projects, but a special project above a certain threshold, there may be some policies put in place to develop a cost estimate and get management approval of that before beginning that project. And management's response is right below our recommendation there on page 6. And they said they would begin documenting cost estimates, providing those to the requesting department prior to starting work. So, any questions about special projects?
Is that the title we're calling Chad the Special Projects Manager? Is that the title we've, okay.
Well, that is, we have a special projects manager. Joe Jackson's in that role. He is a manager role, so it falls under our entire facility maintenance manager, who's the new manager we've just hired.
And what title are we giving him? Just Facilities Maintenance Manager?
That's correct.
Questions?
I suppose in closing on those two departments, overall, these guys are doing a great job. We're just looking at making some recommendations for tracking projects in regards to cost and duration and things like that. So just an update of the other things we have going on for you. Department audits that we have in process currently, or we're working on reporting currently, are the Tax Assessor's Office, Animal Services, and 311. We expect to present those to you all next quarter. We're looking at beginning, or in the planning process of beginning internal audit of information technology. And there are various other projects that have been approved for the first quarter of next year. So we have a lot of work lined up for the county. Any questions at all? All right, thank you.
You did well bringing them, Rick.
Internal audit update.
Actually, this will be our external audit. This will be for our fiscal year audit. Bonnie?
Yes. Hi, good morning. I'm Bonnie Cox. I serve as your audit partner for the external audit of the financial statements. So we're going to be, instead of talking about individual departments, we're going to be talking about the county financial statements as a whole for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2018. And so there are, in performing the external audit, there are professional required communications in accordance with the professional standards that are required of me as your auditor to communicate with you as what is called the body of governance, or the audit committee overseeing the county. There have been a couple of professional standard changes that I will bring to your attention. We have a couple of recommendations, and then also, more importantly, just listening to any questions or concerns that you might have. So you do have an annual reporting requirement to file your financial statements with the state of Georgia by December 31st. We have a goal to issue that by Monday at the latest, which we are on track for. But right now, we've substantially completed all of our detail testing. We are in the QC phase of our audit. It's with our quality control going through. We have multiple layers of review before we will ready to sign that opinion. But your management's done everything that they need to do, and so it's kind of just on us to get it through our final quality control stage of the review process. But we do anticipate to be able to issue a clean opinion on the financial statements in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards. Your management, as in prior years, has been very proactive. They take things that are commented by the GFOA, which is the Government Finance Officers Association, on the prior year annual report, and they incorporate that into the current year report kind of pretty much without us having to do anything for that. And then also, although this year's accounting standard was a fairly easy implement compared to what you had to do in the past number of years, but those all were kind of taken care of before we kind of got in, before we were even doing the planning on the audit. So this is kind of a bullet list of our required communications. And so let me just run through this with you. We anticipate the unmodified opinion, which is a clean opinion. This year we did conduct the uniform grant guidance, a compliance audit, which we'll talk about that in a little bit, just a minute. We did not have any difficulties. We did not have any disagreements. We did not have any transactions for which there was not appropriate guidance. There were some unique items that kind of happened during the year, but in talking with your management and looking at the professional standards, there was guidance there to guide us on how to record and report those transactions. And no material weaknesses in internal control reported. Corrected and uncorrected misstatements. Now, this is one thing, if I'm in your role as the audit committee, yes, it's very important to listen to the internal audit reports because those are at a much more detailed testing level and different set of standards that they follow. But in looking at the annual financial statements, when we came in and did our testing, which we test all the cycles, we test the cash receipts cycle, we test cash disbursements, we test payroll, we test journal entries, and that's kind of at the county level. We go in and test the trust and agency, the fiduciary, the constitutional offices. We test the component units, the development authority, the CVB, the library, the Board of Health. We do testing kind of all things encompassed in the annual report. And we did not have any misstatements in our testing, meaning there was nothing that was not brought to the attention of us by management where we had to go and make adjustments. So no differences from what you were getting reported on a regular basis from what the audit statements has that was not brought to our attention by your management. Your management's also going to sign for us what's called a representation letter, which we don't issue opinions. I wouldn't suspect any CPA would issue an opinion without getting a representation letter, which your management signs to us telling us that they were truthful in our inquiries and did not withhold information that would have been relevant either to our audit procedures or to those financial statements. We are aware that your management works with your internal audit firm that was just presenting here, but to our knowledge, there are no other consultations with any other independent accountants. And by definition, the internal audit function is a management function, so it's not technically not independent because that is an internal function there. All right, another element of required communications, significant estimates. The professional standards tell us that it is important for us to bring to your attention where significant estimates are in the financial statements. Where I just ran through the different transaction cycles of receipts and disbursements and payroll such. Those are, I won't say easy, but those are simpler to audit because there's deposits coming in and checks going out and purchase orders, and very easy for auditors to what we call tick and tie and agree amounts to various things and approvals and that sort of thing. Estimates are a different ballgame. Estimates require judgment. They require data that judgment is based on. And so we have to audit those transactions, those amounts in the financial statements in a different way. In the county's financial statements, the list you see here are what we've identified as those significant estimates. The allowance for doubtful accounts, the amount of amounts that have been billed, whether it's in your utilities or taxes or otherwise, have been billed but will not be collected. There's always some that are not going to be collected. That's an estimate. How long your capital assets are going to last you, whether it's over 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, and that depreciation calculation is considered an estimate. Landfill post-closure cost, how much it's going to cost to continue to close down that landfill. That is an estimate. It's based on engineering estimates that we test. The investments are carried at fair value, and that also is an investment, again, based on reliable data and reports, but it still is an estimate. And then the largest and most significant and, quite honestly, the most complex estimate that's in the financial statement is related to the post-employment benefits. And that is the actuarial study that is done for the post-employment benefits for the county, and then Board of Health actually does have a defined benefit plan that has a separate report that we audit there. But we rely on actuarial studies and information there to audit that transaction. All right, this year I mentioned the simple accounting standard that was implemented this year. Previously, whenever you issued debt to construct assets, it was written within the standards that you were to capitalize the interest costs that went along with that debt. So during the construction period, the amount of interest you were paying on the bond became a part of the cost of the asset that then was capitalized and then depreciated over the life of that asset, that 15, 20, 30 years. Well, GASB went in and simplified things and said you can't do that anymore. So it makes things simpler on an accounting calculation standpoint. It just means and this year it really was just removing a disclosure because you didn't have any significant construction or capitalized interest during the course of the year. But what it means is going forward, when your manager is presenting to you estimates and projections of costs when it comes to construction of assets, that interest, if you issue debt for that interest component of it is just going to be expensed right away. It's going to, in the year you pay it, it's going to be expensed. You don't get to just amortize that or depreciate that over the life of the asset. It'll just go straight to expense in the year you pay it, even during the construction
Does that matter
period.
to a government?
I'm sorry?
Why would that matter to a government if you're not?
The GASB said it did. I don't know. It's just, it is different from commercial accounting. Commercial accounting still does allow for interest to be capitalized, but in a government, and I think that was the GASB's perspective, that it doesn't matter to a government, so let's just get it off of the books when you pay it.
Okay.
There you go. Again, because there wasn't any significant impact in the current year, there was no effect on that position in the financials. It just might affect things going forward in future years. All right, government auditing standards. So the compliance audit. So this is something that we did conduct during the current year, because in the current year for 2018, the federal expenditure contracts exceeded the $750,000 threshold. And during the planning of this year's audit, it was brought to our attention that there was a contract in 2017 that had spend on it that it was unknown at the time when the 2017 schedule of expenditures of federal awards was provided, that it did not include a contract that did have federal source on it. So what that means is that during the current year audit, we conducted a compliance audit for both the fiscal year ended June 30, 2018 and 2017. We went back and looked at that same contract spend for 2017 and 2018. And when we did the compliance testing there, we had no findings. The compliance requirements were being met, no material weaknesses, and we do expect to issue a clean opinion on the compliance with the federal requirements under the Uniform Grant Guidance. So what that means is your 2017 schedule of expenditures federal awards, when we looked at it last year, it did not include a contract that later became known to your finance management that did have federal source. It was 80% federal. So once that was known, it was the schedule of federal expenditures was revised, and it did kick it over that $750,000 for the 2017 year. And so that's why we did basically the 2 years of compliance audits in the 1 year. Again, the compliance testing was not done during the time period of last year, which the Uniform Grant Guidance says that it should be done within 9 months of year end or 30 days from when your financial statement audits were done. So it was not done within the required time period, but when we did it, when it was made known, all the compliance requirements were being met. Anyway, so even though it didn't have the audit done, they still were compliant with the grant guidance that was out there. So again, I bring up the accounting terminology, material weaknesses, no material weaknesses were noted. We have discussed a couple of other recommendations with your management. One of them did come to our attention when we were doing our testing with the trust and agency funds. One of the cash accounts, the bank accounts over at the probate court with the civil division did kind of have a buildup of cash. And what we noticed in that increase is that the funds coming out of that account go for various things, but there were being quarterly disbursements made over to the county, which we noticed that the fall of 2016 was the last time one of those quarterly disbursements was made over to the county. And so what that resulted in is a significant increase in that cash balance there over at the probate court. So what we would recommend is, again, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to speak to the legality of those funds as far as when the timing of when they're required to be remitted to the county. I can just offer the observation that because it was just different from what had been done in the past, what we observed in the past in fiscal 18, that we would recommend you considering looking into that to see if there would be
Setting up a regular cycle.
Correct.
Good news is we do have a lawyer here.
Wow, that was a lawyer answer.
I'll look into it.
Okay, just so that you're always aware, not in 2020, there really shouldn't be any big accounting standards changes, but in 2021, this leases standard will have a very significant impact on many governmental statements, and so that's coming up. But otherwise, for the next couple of years, it should be a pretty smooth roll as far as your management having to spend a lot of time implementing new accounting standards. So that is a recap of my report. Does anyone have any questions?
Gentlemen? Nothing?
Right. Let me know if I can help.
Thank you, ma'am.
Commissioner or public comments? No executive session? Stand adjourned.
Next.
What?
IT.
I want to call the Management and Internal Services Committee order for 11th. Not 8:30, it's 9 after 9. Got the pledge, we have a full quorum, we have the indication. Got the November 13th minutes in your book. Meet with your approval, I'll accept a motion to do so.
So moved.
Second.
So moved. Presentations, no consent agenda, debate agenda. Thing up is Scott, well, whoever has the inmate telephone.
I can take that. I'll take that for the sheriff. The first item you have is RFP 2018-026, RFP 1311. This is for inmate telephone and video visitation services. We did ask for bids for this particular service. Those bids were open on July the 10th. Based on results of those, Securus Technologies prepared the best solution, offer the highest commission percentage to the sheriff's office. based on these bids, staff would recommend awarding the contract for inmate telephone and video visitation services to Securus Technologies, entered into agreement for an initial term beginning December 18th, 2018, and terminating on June 30, 2020. Obviously, the county at its sole discretion can elect to not renew prior to the end, given 30 days notice.
Move to consent with a question.
Second.
So this is a video service as well. Do we not already have the court system, the probate, or the,
We do.
yeah, the magistrate system already has video conferencing for matters of warrants and things? Is this the same system? Is there savings there at all? Or?
I think it's a different system. Go ahead.
Right.
And they can do it from home or they can do it from the lobby at the jail. There is a cost if they do it from home, so we get commissions on that.
Okay.
But it's a different system. It doesn't have to do with the courts. This has to do with personal visitation.
Just wondering if there was a connection. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
States can video visit now. So moved.
The next item you have is Resolution 18-053. This is the resolution that goes along with Senate Bill 371, allows political subdivisions in Georgia to get a list of vendors who file sales tax and return to their jurisdiction. It's the sales tax transparency law that we were so intent on trying to get. We do have to do this resolution, and it would designate me as the county administrator as the official who can request that vendor sales tax certification. And then there are certain ways that I can then report that back to the commission. Obviously, staff recommends approval.
I don't know.
Move for consent.
Second.
So moved.
Next item you have is a couple of service agreements. Have those in front of you. These are typical service agreements that have, I believe, have been done in the past. If there's any questions specific about any of these, we'll be glad to answer them, but obviously staff recommends approval.
Move to consent.
Second.
So moved. Reese?
Yes, the first item I have is revision to policy number 225.1, dealing with emergencies, inclement weather, and adverse conditions. Staff decided to review this policy in light of information received after the past couple of county closures that we had and dealing with GEMA and FEMA and attempting to receive reimbursements. We decided that the policy really just needed to be cleaned up. There's no major changes in it other than we reorganized the way it was written to clearly define what county closure would be and what type of emergencies it would include. The only thing we removed from the policy was that the previous policy included information about specific payroll codes that we use when paying employees. We removed that because there are times when we need to add new codes or delete old codes, and we didn't want to have to keep coming back and revising the policy due to that. So we've just removed any reference to payroll codes. Staff recommends approval.
There is one issue. I'm not sure that the new language is in the one in front of them. I know we got it yesterday.
I know is it?
What's that? Not loaded. But there are some changes in the language in the policy itself. There were a couple of things that we needed to change. One is the process by which we do the closure, which was not laid out. So we need to make sure we get that to them.
Okay. It may be is it in their book? Because it's in my book.
We need to move it to consent.
Okay. I can tell you, it's just in the very first paragraph under purpose. It does state that when the county administrator declares an official closure of offices or services, that's when this policy comes into effect.
In the past, it said when the Board of Commissioners did that, but we don't, with an emergency type situation, we don't have an opportunity to call a board meeting to let you vote on that. So historically, what's happened is county administration has made that call, but only after consulting with the Board of Commissioners individually.
I would request just whenever we have a policy change that we change edit function. When I read it, it said change.
We normally do.
Changes.
We normally do that. We decided not to in this instance because we did so much moving around, it was impossible to follow the red line version. But I have manually done my own little handwritten version that I can get to you that compares the two. But I know when I sent it to administration, they said it was very difficult to follow. Okay.
Just whenever we have policy changes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, to move forward, about it in our book.
I move for consent.
Second.
Is that the best thing to do, or do we put?
No, I think it's fine. You can move.
So moved.
Obviously,
next
pull
week
it
we'll
off
have-
if you have any issues. Absolutely.
The next item is an RFP that was issued for EProcurement Software. We currently use a software called BidSync, but the company has been acquired or merged with another company who's no longer providing service for their existing software, and so we need to move to another platform. So we issued a RFP for this that was opened on November the 8th. We did 7 total proposals that were received. We implemented a panel to evaluate these proposals. We had representatives from the Sheriff's Office, Fire Rescue, Water Utility, IT, Procurement, and I believe even Transportation was included in the initial view with the demos. Staff has selected Bonfire Interactive for an initial term from January 1, 2019 to June 30, 2020, which will get it on our fiscal year, with 4 one-year auto renewals. Of course, we have the right to cancel this agreement within 30 days' notice. The initial cost is $35,000, and then $25,000 each year after that. Staff recommends approval.
Second.
So moved. Michael?
The first agenda item that you have for your consideration is for the purchase of 5 tactical throwable cameras from Bounce Imaging. These cameras are intended to be used by the Sheriff's Office, EMA, and Fire Rescue. And in essence, they are throwable cameras. The first responder will be able to throw the camera into a room or in a structure, collapsed structure, some kind of situation in which they need some tactical awareness, and it'll broadcast a picture back to them. Ideal for use in situations where first responders would be subjected to danger, or if they need to help. I've seen this demonstrated, and it's a fantastic product. And you've heard us talk a little bit about Operation Convergent Response past, and this is all there. The cost of these cameras, the 5 that we're getting, $22,500. This is going to be funded through Emergency Services budget. There was a new personnel request that was budgeted there in error, so that's going to be transferred $22,500 to CIP machinery and equipment, and the remaining 5 would go to contingency. Staff recommends approval.
Move for consent
Second.
So moved.
Very interesting.
with a request for the demonstration for the new commission once you get them in hand.
Sure, we'll do it.
They're quite impressive, I understand.
Very much so. All right, the next item that you have is for digital orthophotography, the professional services agreement with Spatial Data Consultants. The GIS department typically replaces our digital orthophotography, that's our aerial photos, every 2 years, and our LiDAR every 4 years. So this agenda item covers the acquisition of the photography and the LiDAR. The imagery is what you see on Maps Online, and it's used by literally hundreds of thousands of people on our website. They all see that. And it's used internally specifically, or especially by engineering staff, tax assessors, road construction, any number of departments. So it is a very useful application for us. The imagery that we're going to be capturing this year, items as small as a water valve. Higher accuracy than we've ever gotten in the past. The cost for this project is being borne by a combination of funds, which is split among the general fund and 4 enterprise funds: water utility, building standards, road construction, and stormwater. Overall cost of the project is $212,060 and will be funded over 2 years. It's a long-term project that will start this year, July of 2019. The initial photography will be flown in February or March when the leaves are off the trees. Time is of the essence, but staff recommends approval.
Move for consent with a comment.
Second.
with all the changes in Columbia County, this is overdue. You go looking for a lot of things that you know is sitting out there and it's not on the maps, so.
Every 2 years, though?
Yes, sir. We get the aerial photography every 2 years. The LiDAR helps us to do elevation. So it's not necessary to do that every 2 years, certainly every 4 years, especially as the land has changed when subdivisions and shopping centers.
Is this the program that allows you to scroll comparatively previous?
This would be added to that. If you're referring to the maps online where you can look at the different aerial photos, this would be the latest edition of that. So we'll be able to look all the way back to, I believe, 2005 or 2007.
So moved. Any items added to this? I assume not. Matters? Staff reports? All savings?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. First item you see is the personnel vacancy savings that are tracked by HR. You see that the total savings to date of $450,525. Obviously, we exceeded the budget goal. Then we've also included the turnover percentage for the month of November in your packet.
Questions? Reese?
The first report for your review is the year-to-date budget report. This is for the month ended November 30th, 2018. We should be operating around 42%. As is customary, I've listed several of the major funds for your review on the rec sheet, and everyone is operating within budgetary compliance requirements.
Lost?
The sales tax report includes revenues for the month of December. That check was just over $1.8 million, and our annualized percentage increase now is 6.37%.
Better.
Investment report, any questions? Investment report?
That's just the current list of investments for your information.
How have we done in the last 60 days with the market?
Haven't looked. I'm afraid to.
It's tough to,
It don't,
Ostrich strategy.
just don't look.
because of the way we invest, when we've actually talked to our investors about this, it's difficult to track that because the way the money is reinvested, and sometimes you reinvest lower than you invested the first time, but you're looking for the end gain. But I'll tell you that since we've done this and started investing the money the way that we have, we're seeing significant increase in our investments. I mean, we're doing well. I mean, obviously in the last short term, maybe not so much, but prior to that, we've done extremely well.
Just put everything in Bitcoin, we'll be good.
Any commissioners or public comments?
Sure.
Executive session? Stand adjourned.
So am I next? I'd like to call to order the Development and Engineering Services Committee for today, December 11th. Having already had an invocation and pledge of allegiance, records show that we have a full quorum and full committee up here. Approval of the minutes of the previous meeting, November 13th, at your leisure.
Second.
And any changes to today's agenda on this committee? Good. We'll move straight through. Agenda's approved. Presentations, there is nothing on the consent. We will go to debate agenda and straight into new business. Mr. Schlachter.
Thank you, sir. First one I have for you is the bid for the Grovetown Branch Library. We did receive bids on November 29th. The lowest bid came from SD Clifton Construction, the amount of $3,237,232, and staff has recommended approval of that contract.
Move to consent.
I got with a question.
Yes, sir.
How much under money are we here?
When it's all said and done, testing, design, we're probably $800,000 to $1 million under, but we have identified funds to cover that shortfall.
And just for your information, Matt and I met yesterday. We have several projects, as you know, that have some budget shortfalls. And we have identified funding for all of those at this point. So we're going to bring back a comprehensive plan to commission to allow you to allocate those funds or make changes as you see fit to be able to cover all of those. With our TAVT fund, which is our Special Projects Fund, we were able to add some money to that for this year's budget excess or money we had left over for underspending the budget this year. We were able to add to TAVT. We've also got some unallocated interest and some other monies in some outstanding SPLOS. So we're going to bring that to you and let you look at that. And everything you see today that's over budget, we have identified a way to cover it with current monies.
Okay, thank you.
And when will they start construction?
Going through the holidays, so get the bond, the insurance to us, get the chairman to sign the contract, which from January, but I'd say by the end of January, beginning of February, they should be under construction.
Remind me who built Harlem? That was also Clifton? I thought so. Thank you. So moved.
Which is good, because we learned all the problems. He knows how to build it. He knows the way around it. So I think we're going to end up with a really good building.
Perfection. I like that.
Yeah, we'll hold you to that. Next issue, Lakeside Park.
Lakeside Park, we have received the bids on December 6th for the construction of Lakeside Park. Blair Construction was the low bidder, the base bid of $2,572,365. And we did have 3 alternates listed. We were concerned about the budget on this one, so we broke it out just so we could see where the money was. All alternates included gives us a total of $3,370,905. We have those funds identified. Staff has recommended approval of this contract.
Same question as the chairman. How much over is this one?
If we went just base bid, we'd be close to being on budget. But you see, we're about $800,000 to $1 million over budget if we do the full build out. But again, we have identified those funds.
And in the original discussion here, we did talk about adding tennis courts. We did talk about adding a playground. So we feel like it's important to make sure we fulfill those promises.
I think we have a motion.
Second.
So moved. Thank you. Next item in engineering.
Okay. Thank you. Item I-2B1 is for acceptance of the maintenance responsibilities for the roadway safety lighting that was installed as part of the Innovation Parkway at White Oak Industrial Park. For the monthly cost of $1,224. Staff recommends approval.
Move for consent.
Second.
We're going to put these every 20 feet, Riverwatch.
No.
They didn't ask me how to do it. Item I-2B2 is to accept the bid and approve contract with Garnto Construction, who was the lowest responding bidder in the amount of $85,500 for the North Ridge Storm Drainage Improvement Project. It should be noted that as part of our memorandum of understanding with Blanchard and Calhoun, they will reimburse this project. Staff recommends approval.
Move to consent.
Second.
Work, Matt.
So moved. Thank you.
Steve did it all. It was all Steve.
Good job, sir.
Let's wait till see how it goes first.
Let's let the check clear.
I'll thank Matt later. Okay. Item I-2B3 is for the adoption of the 2018 Columbia County Supplement to this Georgia Stormwater Manual. This cleans up some discrepancies between our MS4 permit and the old manual, and keeps us in line with our new permit. So staff recommends approval.
Move for consent.
Good debate.
Does not have to.
Okay. Second with a question.
Yes, sir.
Are there, update our manual to the Blue Book, or are there any Columbia County changes in here?
There's some Columbia County changes. We also reached out to the development community and tried to clear up some of the stuff that, that had caused confusion in the past. But for the most part, it's based on our MS4 permit to keep us in compliance with that.
I did send the commission all these changes, explain what each one were, and I believe you had a public meeting with the engineering community, brought them in, and they've been through this. They're very aware of it. For the vast majority of it, it helps the construction industry. One or two things makes things better for the homeowner at the end of the day.
And might I add, it is riveting reading.
Oh,
Next, sir. So moved. Next.
Okay. Item I2B4 is to accept the donation of permanent easements for the following properties for the Shallowford Stormwater Improvement Project. I was born in West Virginia, and my parents are from the Appalachians, so pronunciation of some of these names may be bad for me. So.
Yeah, but you're an Ohio State grad, so.
Exactly.
Case closed.
Yeah, I don't need further proof. Clayton Googe, parcel number 073D177, Conrex Residential Group, parcel 073D329, Michael Wayne and Laura H. Pardue, parcel 073D332. This is one I'm Geneva.
I believe it's Genevieve.
Genevieve, thank you. You went to Davidson.
Georgia.
Had one, parcel 073D331. Shane Matthew Kristen, parcel 073D375. Thomas J. and Carolyn B. Batchelor, parcel 073D333. And Antoinette Robertson. Antoinette? Okay. 073D376. Staff recommends approval.
Of all that, the only one you got wrong was Sean to Shane, but that's okay.
Did I really? Move to consent.
So moved. Thank you, sir.
The W was silent. Item I2B5 is to accept improvements and release the letter of credit upon staff's approval of the remaining field inspection punch list as well as the as-built with a one-year warranty beginning the day the as-built is approved by staff for the Kalari Way and Kalari Section 3. Staff recommends approval.
Second.
So moved. Thank you very much.
Item I2B6 is to approve an easement encroachment agreement for Michael and Veronica Materna to construct a garage at 4028 Keene Street in Edgewood subdivision. Staff recommends approval.
So moved.
Item I2B7 is to accept the bid and approve contract with E.R. Snell, who was the only responding bidder, in the amount of $548,535.90 for the Shallowford Place Culvert and Stream Bank Improvement Project. Staff recommends approval.
For consent.
Price reasonable?
$500,000.
This is only,
Yes, we negotiated it down too, and it's within the budget. It was in our
second.
budget.
So moved with just a question or comment. These new culverts and things we're putting in, are they this new material that supposedly will be longer, or are we just replacing metal with concrete or replacing concrete with concrete?
It's concrete. These culverts, basically the creek runs in front of their house, so each one of these culverts is their driveway. Some of them have, basically it's going to help with their sewer. Some of their sewer's exposed going through the creek, above the creeks, that we're going to kind of clean some of that up. But yeah, I mean, it's
You have approval to do it too, though, from the.
Yes, and they're all in very, very much support, similar to Northridge. I mean, they've been dealing with it for a long time.
Same kind of material, same old, just a replacement?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Item I2B8 is to approve change order number 3 in the amount of $169,067.88 with Garrig Civil Works for the Public Safety Drive-It Course Phase 1. This additional work is needed to address site conditions brought on by recent inclement weather and ensure timely completion and delivery of a quality project. Staff recommends approval.
Move for consent.
bear with me, the increase is 170 grand?
Yes, sir.
So the weather caused 170 grand?
Well, yes and no. So when we came back to commission with a change order to put soil cement for the track, this one area we did not do. We felt that we didn't need to do it because of the concrete we're putting on it. Time to start putting the concrete down, and we're in the middle of winter, and
Rained every day since.
we went out there last week, a bird can't fly across it, so it's just impossible to build on top of this material. This would give us the ability to build on top and also give us a stronger home course. If we wait till summer, we could probably not spend that money, but we're gonna have a sheriff who's not very happy because he has to cancel a lot of his training classes that he's already has set up with the state. Staff's met out there, we think it's a wise thing to do.
Second.
So moved. A bird can't fly
That's
because it's so sticky?
That's a Clemson comment.
That's what I was,
Yeah.
all right.
pretty soft.
Emus around here, I think is what it is.
Thank you, sir. All right, development services.
All right, the first one we have is alcohol beverage license for the End Zone Bar and Grill, doing business as End Zone. Applicant has applied for alcohol beverage license for on-premise consumption of beer, wine, and distilled spirits at 239 Meridian Drive. The applicants provided all the required information and posted the property as of December the 3rd. This is a change of ownership application, and staff does recommend approval at the January 2nd Board of Commission meeting.
Move to consent.
Second.
And
Debate, sorry.
Debate.
My bad.
move to debate.
All right, the next one we have is the alcohol beverage license for Sprint Food Stores, doing business as Sprint Food Stores, number 733. Applicant has applied for an alcohol beverage license for off-premise consumption of beer and wine at 1325 Appling Harlem Road. The applicant has provided all the required information and has posted the property as of November the 30th. Staff recommends approval of the license on the January 2nd Board of Commission meeting.
Move to
Debate.
Second.
All right, and the last one we have is alcohol beverage license of JP Sauber Alpha, doing business as Cork and Flame. The applicant has applied for an alcohol beverage license for an off-premise beer and wine at 4401 Evans to Locks Road. Applicant provided all the required information and posted the property as of November the 16th. This is, the business currently holds a on-premise consumption of beer, wine, and distilled spirits, and staff recommends approval.
Second with a question. So it's already, and I went there the other night.
Of beer and wine.
But this is for an off-premise consumption,
Take
so
it
you
home.
could take it with you.
Okay, so they got the liquor, the wine store selling bottles of wine. I bought a bottle of wine and went out the door. This is the,
He broke the law.
and I just admitted it on,
Counselor.
just bear with me, I'm just a little confused.
But like I said, this is, the license they have now is for on-premise consumption. This is for the off-premise consumption.
Go ahead, Aaron. Come on.
Purchased wine from the vineyard.
Yes,
The vineyard's no longer going to exist, and it's all going to become one business. And so now you'll purchase wine from Cork and Flame.
Aha.
technicality.
Thank you for the,
Makes sense.
thank you for the
So
clarification.
you didn't break the law, to clarify.
Oh, well, rogue of me. Second.
Move to debate. Next. No, I'm sorry. I apologize. Well, I've got planning services. I guess, I apologize. I apologize. I was, it messed up. Yes, legal matters. I'm sorry, I was looking in the wrong column. Now I'm in staff reports. I put my check on the wrong section.
Overlook the legal.
Now development services again.
They haven't been doing this very long.
All right, the first one we have is the November 2017, 2018 Development Services Report, and a copy of that report is attached for your information. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to. All right, and the next one we have is Development Services Financial Report, and attached is a copy of that for your information.
Questions? Seeing none?
Lastly, we have the November temporary alcohol permits.
What, through?
And a copy of that is attached.
Questions about that? That's what threw me. I saw that alcohol line. I checked that, then I saw planning services underneath it. I'm sorry.
Recovery.
Planning services reports.
We have before you the plan review workload measurement monthly report. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions about their planning review workload? Next, sir.
We have the planning department workload measurement. Can you answer any questions I can about that?
Doesn't look like we have any. Thank you very much. We'll take all that for information. Any commission public comments? We have a few items for executive session. Gentlemen, what's your pleasure?
Motion, we move into the full board.
Second.
We'll move on to the full board. Any other reason this committee needs to be here? Being none, we are adjourned. Till next year.